Greetings students. My name is C. Pavani. I am Assistant Professor in Pharmaceutical Engineering Department at BVRIT Narsapur. Today we are going to discuss about course Biopharmaceutics and Pharmacokinetics, and the topic name is Pharmacokinetics. Coming to the introduction of Pharmacokinetics, Pharmacokinetics deals with absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion of drug. So let's get into the details of it. For example, if you have taken a drug through oral route, the drug has to enter into the stomach. Through stomach, it has to enter into systemic circulation. Through systemic circulation, it has to enter into the site of action. So, for example, if the site of action is head and I am taking my pill through oral route. So, through oral route, first it will enter into the stomach. Stomach to systemic circulation, you will call it as absorption. So, the movement of drug from site of administration. We call this as site of administration. So, the movement of drug from site of administration to systemic circulation is called as absorption, and the availability of drug in systemic circulation is called as bioavailability. Bioavailability. So, if the availability of drug in systemic circulation is more, it will move more to the site of action. So, the movement of drug from blood to site of action is called as distribution. So, we have discussed what is absorption and what is distribution. Then, so what is absorption? Movement of drug from site of administration to systemic circulation is called as absorption. So, the movement of drug from systemic circulation to site of action is called as distribution. Once the drug distributed into the site of action, then it has to go for metabolism. Metabolism is nothing but conversion of drug from active to inactive. So, conversion of drug from active to inactive is called as metabolism. So, the drug gets converted into inactive form. It cannot retain in the body. If it gets retained in the body, it will start showing toxic effects. To avoid this, we have eliminating organs or excretion organs like liver and kidneys. Metabolism takes place in liver, and kidneys are helpful for the excretion of drug. So, these are basic absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion, which is followed by the drug when they are administered into the body. So, how the rate at which they are absorbing, the rate at which it is getting distributed, metabolized and excreted from the body is nothing but pharmacokinetics. Pharmacokinetics deals with the kinetics of drug absorption, distribution, metabolism as well as excretion. We also call them as ADME parameters. So, there are two aspects of this pharmacokinetic studies, that is, we have theoretical aspect as well as we have experimental aspect. Theoretical aspect, the name itself suggests, in theoretical aspects, we develop pharmacokinetic models by using previously available data. So, where we can use models like softwares or models, by using previously generated data, we predict the pharmacokinetics of the drug. We have experimental aspects where we use the biological samples such as plasma as well as urine to predict the pharmacokinetics of a particular drug. So, this is how the drug moves from site of administration to blood circulation to the site of action. We call this as distribution. From site of action to various other body tissues. The drug it does not only enter into the head, it also enters into the other parts of the body where the site action is not at all required. So that is like body tissues and organs, and from there it enters into the metabolic parts such as liver and other organs as well. And then last, it will eliminate from the body through kidneys as well as through the intestine. So there is a direct relationship between the concentration of drug at the site of action, we also call it as biophase, and also the concentration of drug in the plasma. So our pharmacological effect of the drug depends on drug at the site of action as well as drug in the blood. Okay, so pharmacological action depends on drug at the site of action as well as drug in the plasma. We have two parameters or two categories of parameters which helps us to evaluate the pharmacokinetics or plasma concentration of drug. Okay, so we have pharmacokinetic parameters as well as pharmacodynamic parameters. To make it more understanding, let's get know more about this models or plasma drug concentration time profile. So this is the basic graph which will give you both the parameters in a single graph. Okay, so let us plot a graph by taking time on x-axis and plasma drug concentration on y-axis. Plasma drug concentration is nothing but amount of drug that is available in the blood or amount of drug that is available in the plasma. So for example, I have started or administered a drug through the oral route. Let us assume we have administered a drug through oral route. Initially, it will start getting absorbed into the blood circulation. So slowly for initial 1 hour, it will absorb for certain amount of time, 1 hour, half an hour. It depends on the type of drug you have chosen. So within 1 hour, it will get absorbed. Next, it will get absorbed. It continues to get absorbed. For example, if I am giving 100 mg of drug, within 1 hour, it may get 10 mg of drug gets absorbed in 1 hour. Next, 20 mg of drug gets absorbed in 2 hours. Next, 25 mg. I will tell you why I have marked like this here. Next, 30 mg at 3 hours, 4 hours, 5, 6, 7, so on. Okay, so the drug gets absorbed until it is available at the site of administration. Once the 100 mg of drug becomes 0, then it reaches systemic Cmax, that is highest concentration in the systemic circulation. We also call it as peak plasma concentration. Cmax is nothing but the amount of drug that is available at its highest concentration in the plasma, and that time is considered as Tmax. The time which took for the drug to reach to the systemic circulation to the 100%, up to the maximum available dose. The time that takes to reach the systemic circulation for maximum available dose is called as Tmax. It may also vary from drug to drug. Then after this absorption phase, we call this as absorption phase. So to the left of the Cmax, you have absorption phase. To the right of the Cmax, you will have post-absorption phase. Post-absorption phase, you can see distribution as well as metabolism of the drug. So once the distribution and metabolism of the drug is done, then it enters into elimination phase through the various organs as we discussed earlier, kidneys as well as intestine. So we have absorption phase, post-absorption phase and also elimination phase. All this, so as I said, we have two parameters in this, that is pharmacokinetic parameters in the same graph and pharmacodynamic parameters in the same graph. So the pharmacokinetic parameters are Cmax, Tmax as well as AUC. All these three comes under pharmacokinetic parameters. AUC is area under curve. So this is AUC, whole area which is represented under this graph. This is what we call it as AUC, area under curve. Next, so pharmacodynamic parameters. we have minimum effective concentration, maximum safe concentration, we have intensity of action, this is third one, and we have a duration of action, fourth parameter, therapeutic range, fifth parameter, next onset of action, and therapeutic index, which is not included in this graph. I will explain what it is, and these are some of the onset of action. So these are some of the pharmacodynamic parameters. Let us get in detail about one by one parameters. So we have pharmacokinetic parameters as we discussed earlier. We have three pharmacokinetic parameters, Cmax, Tmax and AUC. Yeah, pharmacokinetic parameters will give you the amount of drug that is available in the plasma. It also assesses the bioavailability of the drug. As I discussed already, amount of drug in the systemic circulation is nothing. It is also termed as bioavailability of the drug. So peak plasma concentration is nothing but the maximum concentration of drug that reaches systemic circulation, or the maximum amount of drug that is available in the plasma is called as peak plasma concentration. Okay, so we also denote it as Cmax, and Cmax is usually given in terms of microgram per ml, the units of Cmax. It is microgram per ml, microgram of drug in ml of blood. Microgram of drug in ml of blood, and this peak plasma concentration depends on three parameters, that is the amount of drug or the dosage you have administered, and the rate of absorption, how fast the drug is getting absorbed from the site of application to systemic circulation, the rate of elimination, how fast it is getting eliminated from the body to the external environment. Next, we have two more parameters, that is time of peak concentration. As we already discussed, whenever the drug reaches to the Cmax, that time we consider it as Tmax. Okay. So, whenever the drug, for example, Cmax is 90% of drug, we consider it as maximum peak, maximum drug get absorbed. So, the time required for the 90% of the drug to get absorbed into the systemic circulation, that time we take it as Tmax. Okay. So, the time for a drug to reach peak plasma concentration, peak concentration in plasma through after extravascular administration. Let me tell you why it is extravascular administration. Okay, so we have two types of administrations, extravascular administration and intravascular administration. Extravascular administration is nothing but through oral route, topical route, rectal route. We have many routes of administration through extravascular. Beyond the vasculature, whatever the route you are choosing, they all come under extravascular route of administration. Intravascular, we directly administer the dose to the veins or arteries. So IV route will give you 100% bioavailability within seconds, because as you are directly administering the drug to the systemic circulation, there is no absorption phase in the IV route. That's why we are specifying this extravascular administration in this pharmacokinetic, these pharmacokinetic parameters are assessed only for extravascular administration. Absorption is not seen in IV route. The other pharmacokinetic parameters like distribution, metabolism and excretion is seen, like distribution, metabolism and excretion. All these three are seen in IV route, but absorption is not seen in IV route. But in terms of extravascular administration, absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion, all the four parameters are considered. Okay. So, the time required for the drug to reach peak plasma concentration is nothing but Tmax, and it is expressed in hours, and both onset time and onset of action both dependent on the Tmax. Next, we have area under curve. As we discussed previously, the complete area which is occupied by the drug, like the time as well as the concentrations at various time intervals, all this comes under area under curve. This will give you the extent of absorption. Okay, this will give you the extent of absorption. And this also expresses the total amount of drug that comes into systemic circulation after its administration. It is expressed in microgram per ml with respect to time. So, let me tell you, this will give you both rate and extent of drug absorbed. Okay. So, area under curve will give you both rate. Rate is nothing but with respect to time, and also it will give you the concentration of drug absorbed into the systemic circulation. So, this is the best and important parameter in measuring the bioavailability of the drug, the amount of drug that is available in the blood circulation. Next, let us discuss a brief what is the importance of this as I already said. So, pharmacokinetic parameters on these models lies on the development of mathematical functions, and we also call them as parameters. Whatever the variables you are choosing to predict the pharmacokinetic models, you will call them as parameters, and that govern the pharmacokinetic process. And there are two types of variables. We have independent variables and dependent variables. Independent variables are like time, which is not affected by any other factor. Dependent variables are concentration, which depends on the amount which will change along with the independent variable. For example, if I am administering 100 mg of drug, which we discussed previously, if you are administering 100 mg of drug, with respect to time, the amount of drug in the body also changes. The absorption changes with respect to time, distribution changes with respect to time. So, all this comes under dependent variables. Let us discuss pharmacodynamic parameters. There are 8 pharmacodynamic parameters. Coming to the first one, minimum effective concentration. So, in the graph, you might have seen there are 2 concentrations, minimum effective concentration and maximum safe concentration. Okay. So, minimum effective concentration, let us assume this as minimum effective concentration and this as maximum safe concentration. Minimum safe concentration, sorry, this is minimum safe concentration. And the Cmax should not go beyond maximum safe concentration. And from maximum safe concentration to minimum safe concentration, you have a word called toxic level. We call it as toxic level. From minimum safe concentration to maximum effective concentration, you will call it as therapeutic level. Whenever the drug is in this therapeutic level, then only it shows its action. If the drug goes beyond this level, then it shows its toxic effects. So, in this you will get the pharmacological effects, and beyond this it will show the toxic effects of the drug. And this Cmax should not cross the maximum safe concentration boundary. Okay. So, before going in detail, after this I will tell you how the graph is plotted for that. So, minimum effective concentration is nothing but minimum concentration of drug that shows the required pharmacological effect or required therapeutic effect. For example, let me give you one example. For example, if I am taking 100 mg of some drug, let us take the common example. You will take the 500 mg of paracetamol to decrease the fever. Okay, so you will take 500 mg of paracetamol and you are not sure that 500 mg will reach the blood circulation. Only 400 mg may reach the blood circulation or systemic circulation. Then what about the other 100 mg, where it is going? The other 100 mg is directly getting metabolized without showing its pharmacological activity. Okay, without showing its pharmacological activity, it gets metabolized. We call this as first pass metabolism. First pass metabolism is without, if the drug gets metabolized without showing its pharmacological activity, you will call it as first pass metabolism. So, this remaining 400 mg will enter into different parts. wherever the activity is required and where the activity is not required. It enters into both the tissues and organs. So, for example, if I need the paracetamol, particularly to reduce the fever or to reduce the headache, if you are taking it, so minimum 300 mg is required for that particular site or at the site of action. If minimum 300 mg is required to show the activity, you will call it as minimum effective concentration. You will take 500 mg drug and 100 mg is wasted because of metabolism. 100 mg is reached into other organs, other body parts, and minimum 300 mg amount of drug has to reach to the site of action to show its pharmacological effect. That we call it as minimum effective concentration. But in terms of antibiotics, you will use the word minimum inhibitory concentration because the minimum amount of drug that is required to inhibit the growth of microorganisms, that is called as minimum inhibitory concentration. So let's get to the second point. We have maximum safe concentration. As we already discussed, the drug has to be within the range of minimum safe concentration to minimum effective concentration. It should not cross the maximum safe concentration. If it crosses the maximum safe concentration, then that leads to the toxic effects of the drug. So it is the concentration of drug in plasma which shows adverse effects or unwanted effects after it reaches the maximum safe concentration. We also call it as toxic level of the drug. Next, coming to the third parameter, onset of action. When it reaches, as we discussed in the previous slide, so once it reaches the particular amount of drug, for example, minimum, if you are giving a 500 mg tablet, minimum 150 mg has to reach the systemic circulation to show the pharmacological activity. So that drug concentration is considered, or that point is considered as onset of action. So the beginning of pharmacological response is considered as pharmacological or onset of action. Onset of time, the time required for that 150 mg to reach into the systemic circulation is nothing but onset of time. We all in definition terms, the time required for the drug to show to starts producing the pharmacological action is nothing but onset of time. Okay, the time required for the drug to start producing pharmacological response is nothing but onset of time. So let us discuss with the fifth point, that is duration of action. The time period for which the plasma concentration of drug remains above minimum effective concentration, that is considered as duration of action. If you plot a graph, so above minimum effective concentration, whatever the drug remains in this particular area of graph, you will call this as duration of action. Okay, so duration of action is nothing but time period for which plasma concentration of drug remains above the MEC level, minimum effective concentration or concentration level. It is also defined in terms of difference between onset time and the time for drug to decline back into the minimum effective concentration. Next, sixth point is intensity of action. Wherever you will see the maximum pharmacological response produced, as we have denoted in our peak. In peak we have denoted, that is maximum pharmacological response is seen at Cmax. At Cmax you will see the intensity of action. So the intensity of action is more when the drug reaches Cmax. Next, therapeutic range. It is drug concentration between minimum effective concentration with maximum or minimum safe concentration. So therapeutic range is nothing but the drug concentration between minimum effective concentration with minimum safe concentration. If you take it in terms of ratio, that is called as therapeutic index. So therapeutic index is the ratio of maximum safe concentration versus minimum effective concentration. And if the therapeutic index is very important in all pharmacological aspects, because if the therapeutic range is not maintained, therapeutic range and index are not maintained, or they are not within the limits, then it may lead to toxic effects or lethal effects of the drug. So let's have the summary of this topic. So the drug, after this drug administered, it reaches into systemic circulation slowly, and it reaches the Tmax or Cmax, like maximum concentration that reaches to the plasma. Once that maximum concentration is extrapolated to the Tmax, after reaching Cmax and Tmax, it's slowly getting metabolized and it slowly gets eliminated from the body. These three parameters, Cmax, Tmax and AUC, are considered, area under curve, are considered as pharmacokinetic parameters. Apart from that, as I said, if you are giving 500 mg drug, minimum 150 mg of drug is required. This is just an example. Minimum 150 mg of drug is required to show the action. That is called as onset of action. And from the onset of action, that particular time you will take it as onset time, when the drug starts showing its pharmacological effect, that is onset of action at that particular time. For example, if the drug is showing if I have taken a painkiller and if it is showing if it is decreasing the pain within 1 hour, then you will consider that 1 hour as onset time. Okay, onset time. And the concentration is nothing but onset of action. After that, you call it as absorption phase, and from absorption phase to whatever the duration it is staying in the body from onset action, if you extrapolate, you will get the duration of action of the drug. And when the drug reaches highest concentration in the plasma, that you will call it as intensity of action. And after this, you have one more important parameter, yes, that is therapeutic range. The drug between this maximum safe concentration to minimum effective concentration is termed as therapeutic range. We have one more term, therapeutic index. The drug between maximum safe concentration to minimum the ratio of maximum safe concentration to minimum effective concentration is termed as therapeutic index. And above this you will call it as toxic level, and below this you will call it as subtherapeutic level. If the drug is not reaching more than 150 mg, then you will call it as subtherapeutic level. In the subtherapeutic level, you cannot see any kind of pharmacological action of the drug. At Cmax, both absorption and elimination rate are same for that particular drug. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.